Now, stop, I got this, Biker told the elderly veterans couple. His next move left everyone in disbelief. The wind cuts cold across the parking lot of Miller's Grocery on Route 9, just outside the town of Pinewood, population 4,200. It's a gray November afternoon, the kind where the sky hangs low and heavy, with clouds the color of bruised steel, threatening snow, but not yet delivering it. The temperature hovers just above freezing, 34 degrees according to the bank sign across the street, and the air carries the metallic bite of coming winter. The parking lot is half full, cars scattered in uneven rows. A young mother pushes a shopping cart toward a minivan, her toddler bundled in a puffy coat. An elderly woman loads groceries into the trunk of a sedan with careful, deliberate movements. A man in a business suit talks on his phone, pacing near the entrance, his breath visible in small white clouds. Life moves at its usual pace, people focused on their own errands, their own problems, their own lives. In the center of the lot, near the exit lane where traffic flows toward Route 9, an old Ford F-150 sits silent and dead. The truck is 23 years old, its blue paint faded to a dull powder finish by sun and salt and time. Rust creeps along the wheel wells like a slow infection, spreading across the door frames and eating into the metal beneath. The hood is propped open with a bent rod, revealing an engine bay filled with grease, oil stains, and the accumulated grime of 2 decades. The battery terminals are corroded white with sulfate buildup. The serpentine belt shows cracks along its length. The hoses are brittle, darkened by heat cycling. Everything about the truck speaks of age, of hard use, of repairs delayed because money wasn't there. Beside the truck, an elderly couple stands in the cold, their breath visible in rhythmic puffs. The man is in his late 70s, tall once, but now stooped by time and injury, his spine curved forward as if bearing invisible weight. He wears a faded green army field jacket over a red flannel shirt, the fabric worn thin at the elbows. Khaki work pants hang loose on thinning legs. Brown work boots, scuffed and salt-stained, anchor him to the pavement. A wooden cane supports his right side, compensating for a leg that doesn't bend properly anymore, the knee locked at an awkward angle. On his head sits an old baseball cap, olive drab with a stitched patch faded by washing. 1st Cavalry Division, Vietnam, 1968-1971. His name is Frank Callahan, retired Sergeant, United States Army, 3 tours in Southeast Asia, Purple Heart recipient, Bronze Star, Combat Infantry Badge. He doesn't talk about any of it, hasn't in 40 years. Beside him stands his wife, Margaret. She's 74, small-framed and thin in the way that speaks of meals skipped to make the budget stretch. She wears a brown wool coat that's seen too many winters, its buttons mismatched. Replacements, the lining torn at one seam. White hair is tied back in a loose bun, streaked with the last remnants of what might have been brown once. Her hands are gloved in threadbare knit mittens, but they still tremble slightly from the cold. In one arm, she cradles a single canvas grocery bag filled with the essentials they could afford this week: a loaf of white bread, a dozen eggs, 3 cans of soup, a small bag of rice, instant coffee. Total cost, $18.47. That leaves $31.53 in their checking account until Frank's VA disability check arrives in 6 days. They've been trying to start the truck for 14 minutes. Frank has turned the key 6 times. The first 2 attempts produced a sluggish crank, the engine turning over but refusing to catch. The 3rd and 4th tries yielded only clicks. The 5th attempt gave nothing at all. The 6th, just now, produced a single metallic tick and then silence. Dead. Frank leans heavily against the open driver's door, his weight. Supported by the cane, breathing hard. His chest rises and falls beneath the field jacket, each breath deliberate, controlled. His face is weathered like old leather, lined with the map of decades spent outdoors, working, surviving. His hands shake slightly, not from cold, but from the effort of trying to push-start a truck his body can no longer move. "We need to push it out of the lane," he says quietly, his voice rough from years of cigarettes he quit 20 years ago, but never fully recovered from. Margaret sets the grocery bag carefully on the passenger seat, then closes the door to protect it from the wind. She looks at the truck, then at Frank, then at the growing line of cars behind them. 3 vehicles now, waiting. The first, a silver Honda Accord, honks once, short, impatient. "I'll help you push," Margaret says. "You're not pushing," Frank says, the firmness in his voice leaving no room for argument. "Then, how are we going to move it?" Frank doesn't answer because he doesn't have one. He's too weak to push it himself. His right leg won't bear the weight. Hasn't since the shrapnel wound in '69 that the VA classified as service-connected disability 30%. His back won't take the strain. His heart, scarred by 2 mild infarctions in the last decade, won't tolerate the exertion. But he can't ask for help. He won't. Pride is sometimes all a man has left when everything else is gone. Behind them, another horn sounds, then another. A line is forming now, 5 cars, 6, 7. People waiting to leave, blocked by the dead truck sitting in the exit lane. A woman in a white SUV leans out her window and yells, frustration sharp in her voice. "Can you move that thing? Some of us have places to be." Frank raises one hand in apology, not turning to face her. "Sorry," he says, though his voice is too quiet for her to hear. "I'm trying." Margaret steps to the rear of the truck, placing her small, gloved hands on the cold metal of the tailgate. The surface is rough with rust under her palms. "We'll do it together," she says, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Frank exhales, a long breath that carries defeat and exhaustion in equal measure. He moves to join her, limping around the open door, his cane tapping against the pavement. He positions himself beside her, one hand on the tailgate, the other gripping his cane for balance. "On 3, he says. Margaret nods. 1, 2, 3. They push. Frank leans his weight into it, his bad leg buckling almost immediately. Margaret strains, her face tightening with effort. The truck doesn't move, not an inch. The parking brake is off, the transmission in neutral, but the vehicle is heavy, over 4,000 pounds, and 2 elderly people with a combined strength less than that of a single healthy adult cannot overcome inertia and friction. Their feet slip on the wet pavement. Frank's cane skids sideways. He catches himself against the truck, gasping, pain shooting through his knee. The horn honks again, longer this time, angrier. Someone shouts, "Come on!" Margaret grabs Frank's arm, steadying him. "Frank, we need to call someone." "Who?" he asks, his voice tight, frustration and shame mixing. "We can't afford a tow. We can't afford the repair. We can barely afford the groceries." "Then what do we do?" Frank looks at the truck, then at the line of cars, then at the grocery store where people walk past without looking, their eyes sliding over the elderly couple struggling in the cold as if they're invisible. "I don't know," he admits, and the words cost him something. No one stops to help. A young man in a leather jacket walks past, glances once, then continues to his car. 2 women in yoga clothes exit the store, see the couple, and deliberately take a longer route to avoid them. A store employee collecting carts pauses, considers, then pushes his line of carts in a different direction. People see, but seeing and acting are different things. Frank and Margaret stand beside the truck, silent and exhausted, as the cold presses down and the horns continue to sound. 4:05, 5 hours, the Watchers. Inside the grocery store, near the wide glass windows that overlook the parking lot, several people have gathered to watch, not to help, just to watch. A cashier named Brenda, 52, with dyed blonde hair and a name tag that reads 15 years of service, stands at her register, craning her neck to see. "That's the Callahans," she says to her coworker. "They come in every Tuesday, always buy the same things, never more than $20. The coworker, a younger woman named Ashley, nods. They seem nice. They are, quiet, polite, never complain. Brenda watches as Frank struggles to stand upright after another failed push attempt. "That truck's been dying for months. I've heard it coughing in the lot before. Someone should help them." "Yeah," Brenda says, but neither of them moves. Near the window, a man in his 40s wearing a Carhartt jacket and work boots stands with his arms crossed, watching. His name is Tom Ridley, a local contractor. He sees Frank's cane, the army cap, the way the old man moves like every step costs him. "That guy's a vet," Tom mutters to himself. He thinks about walking out there, offering a hand. He's got jumper cables in his truck. Could at least try to get them started. But he's running late for a job site. His crew's waiting. He hesitates, then turns away. Outside, the temperature drops another degree. The wind picks up, carrying the smell of diesel exhaust from the idling cars. Warstand. Warren C-47. Hours, the sound. It comes from the north end of the parking lot, low and rumbling, like distant thunder rolling across a flat plain. A sound felt as much as heard, vibrating through the cold air and rattling the windows of parked cars. Engines. Multiple engines. Deep, throaty V-twin growls that echo off the storefronts and reverberate. Through the pavement, people turn, heads lift. Conversations stop mid-sentence. 6 motorcycles roll into the parking lot in a tight, disciplined formation, 2x2x2. Chrome gleaming under the gray sky, exhaust pipes crackling with each throttle blip. They're Harleys mostly. Road Kings with their tall windshields and saddlebags. Softails with raked forks and fat rear tires. One matte black fat boy with ape hanger handlebars. Big, heavy machines built for long rides and hard weather. Their engines tuned to rumble like controlled thunder. The riders wear black leather jackets adorned with patches, some faded and worn, others crisp and new. Bandanas cover heads or necks. Heavy boots rest on pegs. Gloved hands grip handlebars. Their faces are weathered, bearded, hard. The kind of faces that have seen things and don't talk about them. The lead bike is ridden by a man in his mid-50s, broad-shouldered and thick-armed, his torso solid beneath the leather. His graying beard is braided at the chin, secured with a small metal bead. Dark sunglasses hide his eyes despite the overcast sky. His jacket bears a large patch on the back, visible as he leans into a turn. A winged skull over crossed wrenches, with bold letters arcing above and below. Iron Shepherds, MC, Veterans Riding for Veterans. Smaller patches decorate the shoulders and chest. USMC, Desert Storm, Semper Fi, 0311, Infantry, honorably discharged. His name is Cole Hendricks, former Marine Corps Sergeant, First Gulf War, mechanized infantry. 22 years out of service, but still carrying the discipline, the mindset, the brotherhood. The motorcycles pull into a row of parking spaces near the grocery store entrance, engines shutting down one by one in sequence. The sudden silence feels louder than the roar, a vacuum that draws attention. The riders dismount with practiced ease, swinging legs over seats, standing in unison, stretching road-stiff muscles. They don't hurry. Every movement is deliberate, controlled. They don't look like trouble, but they don't look friendly either. People watch nervously. A mother pulls her young daughter closer, whispering, "Stay near me." A man in a business suit quickens his pace toward his car, not making eye contact. An elderly woman clutches her purse tighter. Assumptions form quickly. Bikers, leather, loud engines, patches, beards. Must be dangerous, must be trouble. Cole removes his helmet, revealing short gray hair, cropped close in a high and tight fade that hasn't changed since his Marine Corps days. He hangs the helmet on the handlebar and scans the parking lot out of habit, the way a point man scans terrain. Threat assessment, exit routes, civilian positions, anomalies. That's when he sees the truck, the open hood, the elderly couple standing behind it, hunched against the cold, the line of cars honking. The way the man leans on a cane, his posture defensive, protective. The way the woman stands close, small and fragile. Cole sees the army cap, the field jacket, the Purple Heart license plate frame barely visible beneath the rust. He knows that posture. He's worn it himself. The stance of a man who's given everything and now struggles alone, invisible to the world he once defended. Without a word, Cole starts walking toward them, his boots heavy on the pavement. The other riders notice. They exchange glances, then follow without question, spreading out instinctively, flanking positions, covering angles, watching for threats. Old habits from another life, never fully abandoned. The crowd tenses. Whispers ripple through the parking lot like wind through tall grass. What are they doing? Are they going over there? Should we call someone? Inside the store, Brenda grips the edge of her register. Oh no. Tom Ridley steps closer to the window, his expression uncertain. Frank sees them coming. 6 large men in leather, moving with purpose, their formation tight and deliberate. His hand tightens on the cane, knuckles going white. Instinct from decades ago surfaces. Assess the threat. Position yourself between danger and those you protect. He shifts slightly, placing himself between Margaret and the approaching bikers. Margaret's hand finds his arm. "Frank, stay behind me," he says quietly. Cole stops 6 feet away, close enough to be heard clearly, but far enough to avoid crowding. He's a big man, 6'2", 230 pounds, intimidating without trying, the kind of presence that fills space and commands attention. His eyes, now visible without the sunglasses, are gray-blue and sharp, taking in every detail. The cane, the limp, the trembling hands, the grocery bag visible through the truck window. He reads the story in seconds. Veteran, fixed income, no support, pride keeping him from asking for help. Then Cole raises his voice, sharp and commanding, the tone of a non-commissioned officer giving orders that will be followed. "Stop, I got this." The freeze. The parking lot goes absolutely still. Everyone within 50 feet stops moving. Conversations die mid-word. Heads turn. Eyes lock on the scene unfolding near the dead truck. Frank stiffens, his body going rigid, unsure if the words are a threat or an offer. His free hand clenches at his side. "We're fine," he says, his voice steady but thin. The reflexive response of a man who's spent his life solving his own problems. Cole doesn't move. His expression doesn't change. "You're not fine," he says, his tone firm but not unkind, the voice of someone stating facts, not arguing. "Your truck's dead. You can't push it. You're blocking traffic, and you're standing in the cold when you should be home. So stop trying to do this alone. I got this." "I don't need," Frank starts. "Yes, you do," Cole interrupts, his voice cutting through the protest cleanly. "And I'm offering, so let me." Frank hesitates, pride and practicality warring inside him. He's spent 78 years refusing help, refusing to be a burden, refusing to admit weakness. But the cold is seeping into his bones, his leg is screaming, Margaret is shivering beside him. Margaret touches his arm gently, her gloved hand light against the worn fabric of his jacket. "Frank," she says softly, her voice barely above a whisper, "let him help." Frank looks at her, this woman who stood beside him for 53 years, through war and injury and poverty and loss, never complaining, never wavering. Her eyes are gentle, patient, asking him to accept what he cannot do alone. He looks back at Cole, searching the biker's face for mockery, for pity, for any reason to refuse. He finds only respect. Finally, slowly, Frank nods. Cole steps forward, extending a gloved hand. "Keys." Frank reaches into his pocket, pulls out a worn key ring with 2 keys, one for the truck, one for their small apartment, and places them in Cole's palm. "Thank you," Frank says, the words costing him something. Cole nods once, then turns and walks to the driver's side door. He climbs into the truck with the ease of someone who's spent years in military vehicles, settling into the worn seat, his hands finding the wheel instinctively. He turns the ignition. Click, click. Nothing, no crank, no turnover, just the hollow, mechanical click of a solenoid trying and failing to engage. Cole listens, his head tilted slightly, reading the sound the way a medic reads a pulse. He turns the key again. Same result. He pumps the gas pedal twice, listening to the fuel system. Nothing. He checks the gear selector, neutral, confirmed. Parking brake, off. He gets out, leaving the door open, and pops the hood higher, using the bent support rod to secure it. He leans over the engine bay, his hands moving with quick, practiced precision, checking battery terminals, tracing cables, testing connections, inspecting belts and hoses. One of the other bikers, a lean black man named Jerome, Williams with a shaved head and a pale scar running diagonally across his left eyebrow, steps up beside him. Jerome is 51, former Army motor pool sergeant, 2 deployments to Iraq, 15 years as a diesel mechanic in civilian life before retiring to ride full-time. "What are we looking at?" Jerome asks, his voice low and gravelly. Cole touches the battery terminals, his finger coming away white with corrosion. "Battery's dead, but that's not the main problem." He traces the fuel line running from the tank to the engine, finding a crack near the filter connection, fuel residue staining the metal. Fuel line's cracked, losing pressure. He taps the starter with his knuckle, listening to the hollow sound. Starter's shot. Solenoid might be sticking. Jerome whistles low, a sound of recognition. That's not a quick fix. Cole glances back at Frank and Margaret, standing together 10 feet away, watching silently. He sees the way Frank leans on the cane, the way his shoulders slump with exhaustion. He sees Margaret holding herself against the wind, her coat pulled tight, her face pale with cold. He sees the grocery bag, the worn boots, the truck held together by duct tape and prayer. He knows exactly how this ends if he walks away. They'll call a tow they can't afford. The truck will sit in a garage they can't pay. They'll lose their only transportation. They'll become more isolated, more dependent, more invisible. We're fixing it anyway, Cole says quietly. Jerome grins, a flash of white teeth against dark skin. Figured you'd say that. Cole turns and signals to the other riders with hand gestures, military signals, crisp and clear. The bikers respond immediately, moving into position without hesitation. Mike, Danny, get the truck out of the traffic lane. Jerome, grab the toolbox and the jump pack. Ramirez, call Eddie at the garage. Tell him we're bringing in a vet truck, priority repair, no charge. Tell him to clear a bay. The riders move, like a machine, each knowing their role. Coordination born from years of riding together, working together, serving together in different lives. Two bikers, Mike O'Donnell, a stocky redhead with a thick beard and a shamrock tattoo on his neck, and Danny Torres, a younger guy in his 30s with full-sleeve tattoos and a Marine Corps bulldog patch on his vest, position themselves at the rear of the truck without being told. They brace their hands on the tailgate, plant their boots, and push in unison. The truck rolls smoothly backward out of the exit lane into a corner parking space away from traffic. The line of cars behind begins to move, drivers craning their necks to see what's happening as they pass. The onlookers watch in stunned silence. Brenda, inside the store, presses her hand to her mouth. Tom Ridley, near the window, mutters, "I'll be damned." Jerome jogs to his motorcycle, a black Road King with hard saddlebags, and unlatches one bag, pulling out a heavy red metal toolbox and a portable jump starter pack. He carries both back to the truck, setting them on the ground near the open hood. Ramirez, a stocky biker with a thick mustache and a Navy anchor tattoo on his forearm, pulls out his phone and dials. "Eddie, yeah, it's Ramirez. We got a situation. Vet truck, bad starter, dead battery, cracked fuel line. Can you take it today?" "Yeah, I know you're busy, but this is priority. Guy's first Cav, Vietnam. Thanks, brother. We'll be there in 45. He hangs up and nods to Cole. "We're good. Bay 2 is clear." Cole approaches Frank again, this time standing at ease, hands at his sides, non-threatening. "Where did you serve?" he asks. Frank blinks, caught off guard by the directness. "Vietnam, 68 to 71, 1st Cavalry Division, Infantry." Cole's expression shifts, respect crossing his weathered face like a shadow. He straightens slightly, his voice quieter now. "Marine Corps, 1st Gulf War, Mechanized Infantry, 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines." They hold each other's gaze for a long moment, a silent recognition passing between them, the kind that only exists between people who've stood in harm's way, who've carried weapons into hostile territory, who've lost friends and kept moving. Frank's shoulders ease, just a fraction. The tension in his jaw softens. "We're going to get you running," Cole says. "Won't be perfect. We'll patch what we can here, enough to get you to the garage. Then we'll get it fixed properly." "I can't pay for that," Frank says, his voice tight. "Didn't ask you to pay," Cole interrupts gently. "I don't take charity." Cole steps closer, his voice low enough that only Frank and Margaret can hear. "This isn't charity, Sergeant. This is one veteran helping another. You did your time, you gave your service, you earned the right to ask for help. And even if you won't ask, we're giving it anyway. Because that's what brothers do." He pauses. "You'd do the same if our positions were reversed." Frank swallows hard, his throat working. He looks at Margaret, who nods encouragingly, then back at Cole. "Yeah," he says quietly. "I would." "Then let me." Frank nods, unable to speak. Cole claps him gently on the shoulder, then turns back to the truck. "All right, let's get to work." 405 hours. The repair begins. The parking lot transforms into an improvised field repair station. Within minutes, the bikers have organized themselves with military efficiency, each taking a role, working in coordinated silence, punctuated only by terse, professional communication. Jerome kneels beside the engine bay, toolbox open beside him, sockets and wrenches laid out in neat rows on a shop cloth. He's already traced the fuel line issue, marking the cracked section with a grease pencil. "Cole, we need to bypass this section," Jerome says, pointing to the crack. "Can't patch it properly without replacing the whole line, but we can splice in a temp hose to get him to Eddie's." "Do it," Cole says. He turns to Ramirez. "You got spare fuel hose on your bike?" Ramirez jogs back to his motorcycle, rummaging through his saddlebag, and returns with a coil of reinforced rubber fuel line. 3 feet. Should be enough. Jerome takes it, measures the damaged section, and uses a utility knife to cut away 6 inches of cracked line. He splices the new hose into place, securing both ends with stainless steel hose clamps from the toolbox, then reinforcing the connections with electrical tape for extra security. "That'll hold for a couple 100 miles easy," Jerome says, but he needs a proper replacement soon. Meanwhile, Mike works on cleaning the battery terminals. He's poured Coca-Cola, purchased from the vending machine near the store entrance, over the corroded posts, the acid in the soda neutralizing the sulfate buildup. White foam hisses and bubbles. He scrubs the terminals with a wire brush until bare metal shows through, then wipes them down with a rag. "Battery's toast," Mike says, checking the voltage with a multimeter pulled from the toolbox. "Reads 8.2 volts. Should be 12.6 minimum. This thing's been dead for a while." "Can you jump it?" Cole asks. "Yeah, but it won't hold. He'll need a new battery within a day or two, or he'll be stranded again." Danny inspects the starter, tapping it with a wrench handle to see if it's seized. The sound is dull, lifeless. Starter's intermittent at best. Solenoid's probably welded. Might catch if we hit it with enough current, but it's a gamble. Cole nods, processing the information. "We'll jump it, get him to Eddie's, and replace everything there. This is just to get him mobile." Another biker, a quiet man named Lucas with a long gray ponytail and a faded Air Force tattoo on his forearm, checks the serpentine belt, running his finger along the grooves. "Belt's cracked. See these splits? This could snap any time. Can you replace it?" Cole asks. Lucas nods, pulling a replacement belt from his own bike's emergency kit. "Yeah, I carry spares. Never know when you'll need one on the road." He loosens the tensioner, removes the old belt, carefully noting the routing, and threads the new one into place, his movements quick and precise. Margaret watches from the side, her hands clasped together at her chest, her eyes wide. She's never seen anything like this. 6 strangers working together without pay, without expectation, helping people they don't know simply because it's the right thing to do. Tears gather at the corners of her eyes, but she doesn't wipe them away. Frank stands beside her, leaning heavily on his cane, his expression unreadable. Pride, gratitude, disbelief, and shame all war inside him. He's proud that these men respect his service enough to help. Grateful that Margaret won't have to walk home in the cold. Disbelieving that this is actually happening. Ashamed that he needed help at all. Cole glances up from the engine and catches Frank's eye. "You keep this truck running yourself, Sergeant?" Frank nods. "As best I can. Can't afford a mechanic most of the time. I do what I know how to do." Cole runs his hand along the frame, noting places where Frank has welded patches, replaced bolts, rigged temporary fixes. "You've done good work. This engine's old, but it's solid. You've kept it alive longer than most people would. That takes skill." It's a small compliment, but it lands like a brick. Frank's jaw tightens, emotion flickering across his weathered face. His eyes glisten, but he doesn't look away. "Thank you," he says, his voice hoarse. Cole nods and returns to work. 15:10. Hours. The crowd. While the bikers work, the crowd grows. People who were leaving stop their cars and get out to watch. Shoppers exiting the store pause near the windows. Employees step outside on break, phones in hand, filming. Conversations ripple through the gathering. A middle-aged woman in yoga pants leans toward her friend, whispering, "I thought they were going to yell at them." "Me too," the friend whispers back. "But look, they're helping." "Why?" "I don't know. But it's amazing." A teenage boy holds up his phone, recording, and mutters to his friend standing beside him, "Dude, this is insane. Those bikers are like actual mechanics. This is going on TikTok. An older man in a Carhartt jacket, Tom Ridley, the contractor who considered helping earlier, shakes his head slowly, grudging respect in his voice. Didn't expect that at all. A woman with a small dog on a leash stands near her car, watching. She turns to the man beside her. Do you know who they are? Bikers. I can see that, but why are they doing this? The man shrugs. No idea. Brenda, the cashier, has stepped outside now, her store vest still on, arms crossed against the cold. She watches Cole work and thinks about all the times she's seen Frank and Margaret come into the store, counting their money carefully, putting items back when the total was too high, never complaining. She feels ashamed for not helping herself. Inside the store, the manager, a man named Dale in his 50s, stands at the window, watching. He makes a decision, grabs a bag, and fills it with items: a rotisserie chicken, a gallon of milk, a box of granola bars, some fresh fruit. He walks outside and approaches Margaret. Ma'am, he says gently, I want you to have this, no charge. Margaret looks at the bag, then at him, confusion and gratitude mixing. We can't. You can, Dale says firmly. You're good customers. You've been coming here for years. Let me do this. Margaret's eyes fill with tears. Thank you, she whispers. Dale nods and walks back inside, not waiting for more. 15:25 hours, the diagnosis. After 30 minutes of focused work, Cole wipes his hands on a rag and stands, his knees cracking slightly from kneeling on cold, concrete. He walks over to Frank and Margaret, who have been standing patiently, watching in silence. Cole's expression is serious but not grim. He's about to deliver news, and he wants them to understand it fully. Okay, he says, his voice calm and measured. Here's the situation. We've patched the fuel line temporarily. It'll hold for a few days, but you're going to need a full replacement soon. The battery's dead, completely shot. We can jump-start it, but it won't hold a charge. You'll need a new battery. The starter's failing, the solenoid's sticking. We might get it to turn over with enough current, but it's not reliable, and the serpentine belt was about to snap. We replaced that, so you're good there for now. He pauses, letting them absorb the information. Frank's face falls, the weight of reality settling on him. How much is all that going to cost? Cole meets his eyes. At a normal shop, with labor, you're looking at around $1,000, maybe more, depending on the parts they use. Margaret's hand goes to her mouth, her breath catching. Frank closes his eyes, his shoulders sagging. That's money they don't have, not even close. Their entire monthly income from VA disability and Social Security is $147. After rent, utilities, and medications, they have maybe $300 left for everything else. $1,000 might as well be $1 million. But, Cole continues, his tone shifting, we're not taking you to a normal shop. We're taking you to Eddie's garage. Eddie's one of us, former Army, mechanized. He works on veteran vehicles at cost, parts only, no labor charges, and he gets discounts on parts through a veterans co-op. You're looking at maybe $300, $350 total. Frank's eyes open, hope flickering. 300? Yeah, and, Cole adds, his voice firm, the Iron Shepherds have a fund for exactly this kind of situation. We ride around specifically looking for veterans who need help. We've got money set aside, donated by members and supporters, specifically to cover repairs for vets who can't afford them. We're covering your parts. Frank's face goes pale. No, I can't let you do that. You're not letting us, Cole says, his tone brooking no argument. We're doing it. This isn't a loan, it's not charity, it's our mission. We help veterans. You're a veteran. It's that simple. But I don't, Sergeant, Cole says, and the use of Frank's rank cuts through the protest. Let me tell you something. You served 3 tours in Vietnam. You took shrapnel. You came home when half your unit didn't. You raised a family. You worked hard. You did everything right. And now you're struggling because the system didn't take care of you the way it should have. That's not your fault. That's our fault. All of us, as a country. So, when we have the chance to do something about it, to actually help, we do it. And we don't apologize for it. Understood? Frank's throat works, but no words come out. His eyes glisten. With tears he refuses to let fall. Margaret steps forward, her voice soft but steady. Thank you, she says, looking directly at Cole. "Thank you so much. You don't know what this means." Cole's expression softens. "Yes, ma'am, I do." He turns back to the truck. "Let's get this thing started." Newarfet 30 hours. The jump start. Jerome positions the portable jump starter, a heavy-duty unit with industrial-grade cables, near the truck's battery. He connects the positive clamp to the clean terminal, then the negative to a grounding point on the engine block. "Frank," Jerome calls, "I need you in the driver's seat. When I give the word, turn the key and hold it. Don't pump the gas, just turn and hold." Frank climbs into the cab, his movements slow and deliberate. Margaret stands beside the open door, one hand resting on the frame. Jerome checks the connections one more time, then flips the switch on the jump starter. "Okay, Frank, turn it now." Frank turns the key. The starter grinds, struggling, the sound rough and protesting. The engine cranks once, twice, 3 times, and catches. The engine roars to life, rough at first, coughing and sputtering, black smoke puffing from the exhaust. Then it smooths out, settling into a steady, rumbling idle. The dashboard lights glow, the heater fan whirs. It's running. Cheers erupt from the bikers. Mike slaps the hood with his palm. Danny pumps his fist in the air. Lucas grins wide. Jerome disconnects the jump starter and gives a thumbs up. The crowd watching from the parking lot breaks into spontaneous applause. People clap, whistle, cheer. Someone shouts, "Yeah, way to go." Frank sits behind the wheel, staring at the dashboard in disbelief. The engine rumbles beneath him, vibrating through the seat, through his hands on the steering wheel. It's the most beautiful sound he's heard in weeks. Margaret laughs, a sound of pure relief and joy, and presses her hand to her chest, tears streaming down her face. Cole leans into the window. "Keep it running, Sergeant. We're going to escort you to Eddie's garage. It's about 12 minutes from here, on Route 9 South. Think you can make it?" Frank nods, his voice hoarse. "Yeah, I can make it." "Good, we'll ride with you. If anything goes wrong, we'll be right there." Frank looks at him, emotion thick in his voice. "I don't know how to thank you." "You already did," Cole says. "You served. That's thanks enough." Act 2, Into the Fire. 1535 hours. The convoy forms. The 6 motorcycles start their engines in sequence, the rumble building like a thunderstorm rolling in from the horizon. Chrome pipes gleam, exhaust cracks and pops. The riders mount up, settling into seats, pulling on gloves, checking mirrors. Cole raises his hand and gives a series of signals, hand gestures refined over decades of group rides, military precise and instantly understood. The formation assembles around the old Ford F-150 like an honor guard. 2 bikes lead, Cole on his Road King and Jerome on his Black Heritage Softail. They'll set the pace, watch for traffic, and navigate. 2 bikes flank, Mike on the left, Danny on the right. They'll ride parallel to the truck, blocking aggressive drivers and providing visibility. 2 bikes follow, Ramirez and Lucas bringing up the rear, watching for threats from behind, ensuring no one cuts off the truck. The convoy pulls out of the parking lot slowly, deliberately, moving onto Route 9 South. The truck sits in the center, protected on all sides, surrounded by leather and chrome and the unwavering loyalty of men who understand what it means to serve. Inside the cab, Frank grips the wheel with both hands, his cane propped against the passenger seat. Margaret sits beside him, the grocery bag and the manager's gift bag at her feet. "I can't believe this is happening," Margaret whispers, her eyes on the motorcycles surrounding them. "Neither can I," Frank says, his voice thick. They drive in silence, surrounded by the roar of engines, protected by strangers who became brothers in the span of 40 minutes. Route 9 stretches south through farmland and scattered commercial buildings. Auto parts stores, fast food restaurants, a feed supply shop. The road is 2 lanes in each direction, divided by a faded yellow line. Traffic is light on this Tuesday afternoon. The convoy moves at exactly 45 miles per hour, 5 below the speed limit, steady and controlled. Cole leads with precision, signaling lane changes with hand gestures that the other riders follow instantly. Cars approaching from behind slow when they see the formation. Some drivers honk in support. A few wave. One trucker in a big rig gives 3 sharp blasts of his air horn in salute. Inside the truck, the engine runs rough but steady. The temperature gauge holds in the normal range. The oil pressure light stays off. Every mile feels like a victory. Frank watches the motorcycles ahead of him, their riders sitting upright, scanning constantly, moving as one unit. He recognizes the discipline, the coordination, the silent communication born from shared experience. "They move like soldiers," he says quietly. "They were soldiers," Margaret replies, watching Mike ride alongside them, his eyes constantly checking mirrors, scanning intersections. At a red light, Cole stops and looks back, making eye contact with Frank through the windshield. He gives a thumbs up. Frank returns it. The light turns green. They continue. 1547. Hours ibistit stars Eddie's garage. Eddie's garage sits on the southern edge of Pinewood, just before Route 9 transitions from commercial sprawl to open farmland. It's a squat cinder block building painted white, with a gravel parking lot and a hand-painted sign that reads, "Eddie's Auto Repair. Honest work, fair prices, veteran-owned." 2 service bays stand open, their roll-up doors raised, revealing hydraulic lifts, tool chests, and the organized chaos of a working garage. A 3rd bay is closed, its door marked with a faded Marine Corps emblem and the words Semper Fidelis. Eddie himself steps out as the convoy rolls into the lot. A wiry man in his early 60s with oil-stained hands, a faded USMC ball cap, and a pronounced limp from an IED blast in Fallujah that left his right leg shorter than his left. He wears coveralls over a black t-shirt, work boots, and a tool belt around his waist. His real name is Edward Morales, but everyone calls him Eddie, gunnery sergeant, retired. 2 tours, Iraq. Purple Heart. He opened the garage 12 years ago with his disability settlement and a small business loan, intending to serve the veteran community that the VA often failed to reach. He's never advertised, never needed to. Word spreads. Eddie watches the motorcycles pull in, then the old Ford F-150, and nods in recognition. He's seen dozens of trucks like this, vehicles held together by determination and duct tape, driven by people who gave everything and received little in return. Cole dismounts and walks over, removing his gloves. "Eddie, Cole." They shake hands, the grip firm and familiar. "This the vet truck Ramirez called about?" "Yeah. First Cav, Vietnam. Starter, battery, fuel line, needs parts and labor." Eddie approaches the truck as Frank shuts off the engine. He peers through the windshield, sees the Purple Heart plate frame, the old Army cap on the dashboard, the worn interior. Frank climbs out slowly, using the door frame for support, his cane scraping against the gravel. Eddie extends his hand. "Gunnery Sergeant Edward Morales, Marines, retired. Welcome to my shop." Frank takes his hand, surprised by the formality. "Sergeant Frank Callahan, Army, retired, 1st Cavalry." Eddie holds the handshake a moment longer than necessary, then releases and salutes sharply. "Semper Fi, brother. Let's get you fixed." Frank, caught off guard, instinctively, returns the salute despite not being in uniform. Eddie grins. "Come on, let me show you what we're dealing with." 55 hours. The inspection. Eddie pops the hood and leans over the engine bay, his practiced eyes scanning every component. He traces the temporary fuel line splice, nods approvingly at Jerome's work, checks the battery terminals, inspects the starter. "You did good work on the patch," Eddie says to Jerome. "Clean splice, should hold a while." "Appreciate it," Jerome says. Eddie pulls a diagnostic tablet from his tool belt and connects it to the truck's OBD port under the dashboard. He scrolls through error codes, checks sensor data, reviews system history. After 5 minutes, he straightens and walks back to Frank and Margaret. "Okay, here's what I'm seeing," Eddie says, his tone professional but kind. "Your starter's shot, solenoids welded from arcing, batteries completely dead, won't take a charge even if we tried, fuel lines cracked in 2 places, not just the one they patched. You've also got a minor oil leak from the valve cover gasket and your brake pads are down to about 20%. Nothing catastrophic, but things that need attention." Frank's face tightens. "How much?" Eddie pulls a small notebook from his pocket and scribbles numbers. Starter, 110. Battery, 85. Fuel line, 60. Gasket, 30. Brake pads, 75. That's $360 for parts. Normally I'd charge 4 hours labor at $70 an hour, but for vets I don't charge labor, so $360 total. Frank stares at the number, $360. It's less than he feared, but still more than he has. I can pay you $50 now, Frank says quietly, his voice tight with shame. And $50 a month until it's paid off, if that's acceptable. Eddie looks at him for a long moment, then glances at Cole. Cole steps forward. Eddie, run it through the shepherd's account. Eddie nods. Done. Frank's head snaps up. No, I can pay. Sergeant, Cole says firmly. We've had this conversation. The answer's the same. We're covering it. I won't accept. You don't have a choice, Cole says, his voice gentle but unyielding. The check's already written in my head. Eddie's already running the invoice. It's done. What you can do is accept.